questions policymakers. So Upazila level officer and the secretary. So there are many secretaries. Though there's a policy discussion. And one other point is that social media, in district level and municipal level, they're arranging a social media where join in the government office for Adda about Facebook using about public service and they're saying the demand and sometimes through this discussion, through this Adda, the point raised for the policymaker for policy discussion. And some issues are raising in secretary committee meetings. So that's a translation. So question is, how do you see this scope? And so Facebook, what role can play there? So questions to Akidash and Honorable Minister. Thank you very much.
Okay, over there. Then.
Thank you. Sir, I have a question to the Honorable Minister. Yesterday, I was watching one of your talk show where you mentioned that till 2018, you have exempted all the taxes for the ICT sector. So my question is, does that include the SIM tax and also the handsets, which we are going to import smartphones? Secondly, is that at this moment, I forgot the question. If I remember, I'll tell you. Okay.
Okay.
So one is the SIM tax.
Send me SMS in my Facebook inbox.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So one is the SIM tax. The second one is that whether we are going to also consider the handsets which we are importing also. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, we'll take one more question from here, and then we'll go to the panelists. Again, come back to the audience. Yes. Okay, I see two hands, so we'll just cover those. So you and then you.
It's rather a thought I wanted to raise. As we know that the upfront cost for spectrum is very high, perhaps when the new spectrum is being auctioned, can it be considered to spread it out for the payment be spread out for the entire licensing period as a staggered period, as a staggered payment, so that MNOs can actually focus on expansion of service rather than being focused on upfront payment. So this is a consideration we would I would assume that with the current context of promoting internet access and economic growth in Bangladesh, if we consider the number of 1.2% GDP growth per 10% growth in internet, the total number would be much higher than this upfront cost that MNOs will bear. So this is a very important consideration.
Who should answer that?
Excuse me?
Who are you directing the question to?
We have our chairman. Okay. As well, we have a member of the parliament as well as the state minister for ICT here. Okay. So both of them work at the policy level. So this is a consideration that needs, okay, I believe, deeper thinking. Our request.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, BICC and other organizations for organizing the conference. Actually, my questions are to two presenters. One is Honorable Minister and another is Gramin Phone Executive. Actually, my first question is that Gramin Phone, actually, is it possible to make the hardware in Bangladesh? Because if it could be done, then employment opportunity would have been bigger, and actually our capacity in hardware would have been developed. This is the first question. Second, actually, market structure. Actually, here monopolistic competition is there. And in that way, we are having some lowering the cost. We are expecting some lowering the cost of the. But so at the end of the day, what will happen? Whether these companies will compete, customer competition will be there, and some will be ousted from the market, or no, everybody will develop, and in this way our consumers will benefit. And, okay, and to the minister, actually, my question is that actually you are dreaming much, and we are also dreaming, and dream is our capital. So, but for realization of that dream, infrastructure, whether social, whether physical, whether technological, these three types of infrastructure must be there. And you are not talking much of the building infrastructure. You don't have got the electricity. You must develop the electric whole country and give internet to electric line to all the households. We are where? We are nowhere. Very narrow-based technological backward country, and we have got no very narrow-based products also to sell in the market. And 78% of the people are in the informal sector. So very low level, but we are not talking of that. Without technology, without infrastructure, how can we team in that way? Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, we'll come to the panelists. I'd like to start with Ms. Akidas, Facebook in government.
Yeah, thank you very much for your observations. I mean, as Bengalis, we all know Adda is our lifeblood, right? Like we cannot do without Adda, right? Like I'm a Bengali too, so I understand that very well. So what you talked about is something which we are seeing happening increasingly across the world. I think this was Tom Friedman who said 2 years back at Davos that the old way of doing things is dead, and the entire world has moved towards interactivity. So where you are not talking at people, but basically you are taking their inputs in the way that you are governing. That is also the fundamental redesign, and country after country, if you look all around you here in the region in South Asia as well as globally, you think that is what the model is becoming increasingly. There is greater thrust on transparency, greater thrust on building more openness, and connectivity is playing a very important role in terms of making sure that there is social sharing and also social listening. I mean, social listening, what you talked about the Adda and how from the Upojelas they're taking inputs into Dhaka is a very fine example of social listening. We are seeing that in other countries as well. In India also, we're seeing that in Pakistan and few other countries also in our region.
Police in Bangladesh also has introduced Facebook to interact with the government.
So I think what
so they are becoming a service.
Yes, I think what happens is that sometimes police is taking inputs in terms of illegal parking,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And if you have a Facebook page or, for instance, Dhaka Police or whatever your local police agencies are, sometimes you will find citizens reporting or posting pictures of vehicles which are breaking laws.
Yes.
And then that becomes an evidence for then the police to start doing. Yeah, absolutely. That is what community policing used to be in the older days, when people used to walk up to a police station and say, this is what has happened. Now with technology, this is becoming at the fingertips. One point which I wanted to add on to second the point which our colleague from the private sector here from Grameen Phone made. And I think that is where I thought when I went around in the morning, where you are all making a lot of progress and you should really feel proud of yourself, is that you are architecting for solutions for applications on the mobile platform. You truly are looking at mobile first as the way to go, and that's how it should be. In many mature markets, they are still architecting applications for the PC. And while that is there as a traditional model, that is not the way to go for growth-oriented countries which have a very strong and large youth demographic, because almost the entire generation in these countries is going to come on the internet through the mobile. So it's very important that you have an automatic bias in terms of architecting apps or building apps for the mobile environment, and I'm very glad that you're doing
Sure.
that.
I have a question for you, actually. Now, in internet.org, somebody or a group will be selecting the sites that come into internet.org, so the ones that will be freely available. How is that selected, and who pays for that internet usage?
So currently the model is, and we are basically here, and I and my colleagues are here, we are talking to various people who are active in this domain in Bangladesh, and we are on you could say on a country visit and on a country study, because we're in initial stages of understanding what the needs and local requirements are. So essentially what happens is it's hyper localized in terms of, so for instance, I can give you the examples of what has happened in the 5 other countries where we have launched the app. We basically went out into the community and conducted detailed studies in partnership with our telecom operator partners, and trying to understand what is the lay of the land, what is it that people care, what is it that people care for. And this week, for instance, we talked to government, we talked to non-profit and NGOs, we talked to private enterprises who create services which serve a certain public interest in the verticals which I talked about, which is health, education, information and news.
Great.
And based on that, then based on our feasibility study and also in terms of our identification, we kind of do a selection of those services and talk to those teams of those particular content providers and integrate that into the internet.org app. It is, we sort of, as we launch it, we know there will be a lot more services which will come on, and our focus, our effort will be to include more and more services
Right.
which serve a public
Sure.
interest, right?
Sure.
Because your goal is to get the internet into more and more
And
people's
who
hands.
pays for that internet
So
usage?
the arrangement which we are having with the mobile operators with whom we are launching it is that these services are zero rated, so these services will be available for free.
Okay.
The internet.org app will be available for free. It will not be.
But is
charged
somebody
by
paying? Is the telco paying? Is Facebook paying? Is the government paying
So
for the? I mean,
so
because
cur-
content is going over the wire.
Yes, content is going over the wire. Currently,
Or wireless,
the
whatever it
current,
is.
yeah,
Right.
currently the model is that these are services are available for free. We are sort of iterating as we go along,
Okay.
and as you go over to there, certain the philosophy is that, like in the US, if you call 911, it's an emergency services. The philosophy is that there are certain services which should be available to all human beings for free.
Right.
Like educate, in terms of just access to that information. Where can I get maternal health information? That information should be available for free,
Right.
because it's a basic service.
Right.
So internet.org is going to provide services within the app which we consider to be free basic services, which should be free for people, which is generally
Right.
goes and serves a social good.
Sure.
Telecom operators also see it that way, because they
Right.
also want to bring people
Right.
onto this data world,
Exactly.
onto this internet world,
Right.
and hopefully as they graduate into sort of being more sophisticated users of internet and understand the value, there will be a model where, of course, where
Sure.
you use other services which
Right.
you pay for, but these basic services would be for
So
free. At
sort of
least
like a
that's the vision.
freemium sort of a model where there
Yes,
is something free and then something that you
yeah,
pay for. GPCEO, you had two questions: local manufacturing and monopolistic behavior. Your view on monopolistic behavior.
I think I'll take the second one first because that's more interesting. The first one, I'm not too sure whether I'm qualified to answer that or not.
Sure, sure.
I think my colleagues here, one on the right-hand side and one on the left-hand side, ensure that there is enough competition here. And there are few here which are not present on these seats. So they keep us worried. They keep us awake in the night. So there is absolutely no chance of a behavior which is anywhere even hinting towards that. Having said that, I think my belief is whenever we speak about regulation, there would be 2 or 3 principles on that. One is lesser regulation is always good. More regulation, we've seen that always hurts the economy in the long run. The more we try and control that, the government or some people know best what's good for the customer. I think we are mistaken there. And second is any regulation which is there should be from a customer first point of view. We spoke about interoperability on a MNP side of a thing. But more importantly, what we are speaking about here in this market, for example, mobile financial services. Today, can I open an account in a bank A and transfer it to a bank B through my mobile? Answer is no. Why should that take 5 years more for us to reach that scenario? So that's the second part. I think this market is, going back to the first one again, this market is intensely competitive. You would have seen the kind of promotions, the aggression which most of the operators have. So I don't think there is a reason to worry on that.
Right.
As an operator, in principle, obviously we'll promote local manufacturing. It helps. It helps locally produced equipment definitely helps in terms of service being available, being able to know it better. It's always good, but frankly, I do not know what's the ecosystem at this point of time here to be able to produce those kind of high-tech equipment. But in principle, yes, always support that.
Great, thank you. As a moderator, I'm not supposed to have opinions, but as a citizen of the country, I actually do. So I think we need to strike a balance between the short term and the long term. So when we talk about monopolistic behavior and then a lot of regulatory framework, what we're doing in the short term versus what we want to gain in the long term, I think we need to have a balance. So I want to go to BTRC chairman. Now, there's several questions actually that have been directed to you. So I hope you remember them. I won't repeat them.
Yeah, three questions are directed to me directly and another question indirectly, and he answered and made it easy
Sure.
for me because it is my responsibility really to
Yeah, if you can be
maintain
brief.
an environment in the market where it is competitive.
Sure, thank you.
So that relates also to those questions. That's very interesting. The first one was that some of the operators or service providers in the telecom sector are doing monopoly. And there are some operators or many operators who are deprived of their due share. Meaning to say, in other words, that you are not maintaining or we are not having a plain playing field, isn't it? If that is the question, in the telecom sector, I can say with my considerably long experience that yes, in certain areas, there is monopolistic behavior. The reason is it's very new here. There, in those areas, investment has not been made that much. And to tackle that, what measures we have taken, we have our public intervention, government intervention. We have kept the government public companies, even with laws. The reason is that those companies cannot make that monopoly. So where we find that there is monopoly in those areas, we intervene with the government policy. And in major areas where the market is mature, like you see the mobile telecom, as he was saying, there is competition and we take very strict eye on it. And I can give you an example that in last 2G licensing, when the first license was given in 1997, 96, you know, so then the spectrum was free for all, and the similar treatment. But when we renewed it after 15 years, and you all know that Grameen had at that time and also today appeared as the significant market power. And really, to make a plain playing field, we put more taxes on that, more price on that for them as the significant market power. So that is how we maintain it, and by giving more operators to operate, liberalizing the taxation regime, etc. So you understand that what it is. In domestic transmission, I have mentioned it, there is some sort of monopoly. In ISPs and others, there is no monopoly, I can tell you very well. It is more than what it is. In interconnection, IGW, ICX, it is more, you see, operators operating than the
Mr. Bose, if you could
market
move
can
on
support.
to maybe
So the second
MNO expansion
one
tax.
will not take any time.
Yeah.
It is so simple that yes, it is a question that government reduced the bandwidth price, but at the user level, the price proportionately has not been reduced. So the users have to pay as they used to pay earlier when it was not this much. But you are getting better, you see, speed, you are saying. So that's what it is. The reason is that the bandwidth itself, the whole bandwidth, it covers the, if you consider the unit cost for the service provider, only 10% or less. So the major cost of electricity, domestic transmission is so high and increasing, you are feeling that they cannot cope with that. So that is the reason we are still working on it, and cost modeling is being done, and that would be looked into. The third point is here, that about that monopolistic and other spectrum price. So there, I think it was there about that. Yeah, about that staggered payment of the spectrum. You see, what you are saying, the license is for 15 years. So we are keeping the provision of installment payment. When we auctioned last time in September 2013 for 3G spectrum, then the actually installments were that first you pay 60% and then 40% in 2 installments. And here, first payment is less than 60%, it is 40%, and 60% has been staggered, but it is not for 15 years, it is within next 3 years. So it is being done. It can, we are really thinking that how easy we can make it in future, but for this time it is like that. Thank you.
Thank you. I think BICC President had a small comment, but very small, like 30 seconds.
So regarding the monopoly, I think the government has done a good job to make sure there are multiple operators, but we also have to make sure that telecom operators do not get into every business. What if they start doing e-commerce, they start doing job portal, real estate portal? So we have to make sure where our local companies can add value, so we have to make sure that we can protect their interest. China and India has done a good job on this. They had made sure that they protected their own interests. At the same time, I support telecom operators' recommendation to both reduce the spectrum charge and make installment payments. In return, the telecom operator has to ensure three things. One, roll out nationwide quickly. Second, reduce the price of the internet. And the third is ensure the quality of service of 3G. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The Honorable ICT State Minister. You have several questions.
Yeah, thank you. The first question was about the hardware manufacturing. So I would like to say regarding this issue that in last fiscal year, our Honorable Finance Minister put some little tax on the importing of the mobile phones because of to encourage the local production. So that is why we put some very small amount of money as a tax for importing the mobile telephone. So that is the main objective of the government side. And the another question that the internet speed already covered by the BTSC chairman and Mr. Shamim. And also we are encouraging the high-tech park. Yes, if any company, any global multinational company would like to come here and want to invest money or want to have their production plant inside the high-tech park or any economic zone, we have the tax exemption and repatriate facilities and many other things. I would say that recently A.T. Kearney mentioned that the Bangladesh, in terms of financial attractiveness, we are the #1. So our high-tech park authority, they are ready to give any kind of support. If any, you know that Samsung R&D, they have their R&D in Bangladesh, in Dhaka, and also many other countries are interested to come. So we have the Kaliakor High-Tech Park and 12 other parks in many divisional and district headquarters. So we are trying to develop our high-tech parks for give the special incentives the industry. And power sector, one thing I would like to add, the last thing is, in last 6 years, we had just access to electricity only 40%, but just in last 6 years, we increase it into 62%. So you know that on that time when Sheikh Hasina took the responsibility of the government, on that time only 3,000 megawatt power production capacity we had. But now we tripled it within last 6 years. So this phenomenal achievement in power sector we have done. And also if you look at the internet penetration, it was also phenomenal. And also you are talking about where is the mobile coverage, where is the internet? I would say the mobile network coverage is everywhere in the country. So 98% of the land area covered by the mobile coverage. So we are working on it to roll out the internet, reach out to the union level. So I hope that within next 3 to 4 years, we'll be everywhere in every home. And by 2021, we'll achieve the 100% internet penetration, inshallah. Thank you.
Great. Any last comments from Ms. Das?
Thank you. I would like to support your point which you made that there needs to be pro-access, pro-access development regulatory frameworks, and all of what you talked about, kind of those three pivots kind of support that fundamental principle. The second thing which I wanted to just talk about, that both I and my team are delighted to be here. We are engaged in multiple conversations with different, sort of stakeholders. Our effort here is to sort of meet as many stakeholders as we can, including from mobile operators to the content ecosystem, as well as we are having conversations with with the government to understand its agencies, to understand what e-government services could be the right mobile-ready candidates for integration into the internet.org app. Bangladesh is a very important country for us. There's just like so many people here who need to get onto the internet. And that's great, because that means that this will be a very connected country and with a lot of social sharing. So we're just delighted to be here. I'm hopeful that as a consequence to a lot of these conversations which we are having, the country study which we are doing, we will have reason to be back soon, and hopefully we'll have something to more detail to talk to you at that point of time. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Yes, sorry. One question. I mean, I think after the session, you can certainly talk to her after the session. So I'd like to. You can talk after the session. It's been exactly 93 minutes since we started, and I wanted to. Your 2 questions were lost. It's recorded. We can actually certainly. I mean, it could be answered one-on-one right after the session. So about Facebook, as the Honorable State Minister mentioned, every 20 seconds there is a new Facebook user in Bangladesh, and every 12 seconds there is a new baby. So we want to reduce the number of babies produced every minute and increase the number of Facebookers produced every minute, right? So that would be our goal. Okay, so I want to thank everybody in the panel. I won't mention everybody's name. It's a long list. And I want to thank everybody in the audience. The question that left unanswered will be answered after the session. Thank you very much. Oh, gift. Yes, I forgot. There is a gift. There is a token, the memento, that will be given out to all the panelists. I request the Honorable State Minister to give out the memento. And also there is a special gift for this session. Bangabandhu's unfinished autobiography. So that's a special attraction to all the panelists. I'd request the Honorable State Minister to hand out the memento. Okay, excellent. Excellent, excellent. And I'd request the chair, for me also, thank you. I request the chair, Mr. Ashraful Islam, to hand over the memento and the unfinished autobiography of the father of the nation to our Honorable State Minister. The closing of the conference is happening at 6 o'clock at Hall of Fame. So added attraction after the closing. I mean, there is award giving during the closing and a lot of gan bajna after the closing. Adda baji also. Thank you. Thank you very much.
student অপেক্ষা করছে তোমার জন্য হল অফ ফেমে if you just go and say hello to them let's go I'm only 15 minutes দিদি
Hello.